My name is Dory Vanderhoof. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Glenn Gould Foundation, and wanted to say a few things. You've probably heard a lot about Glenn Gould. You've heard a lot about the foundation. A lot of it I don't need to repeat. Just a couple points. As part of our Glenn Gould Prize, I don't know if you have heard, but Strelton John was nominated and has accepted the next to be the next laureate of the Glenn Gould Prize. And yes, the prize, as you know, is goes to people who have used their musical abilities to go beyond their abilities as being a great musician, but use that power to make the world a better place. And so all of our 15 laureates have done something extraordinary in terms of community service beyond it. And Elton John's last 35 years has been focused on helping the gay community, but especially his work in AIDS and the AIDS committees. So we'll be recognizing that in the spring with a special presentation at the Great Canadian Theatre, which leads me into tonight's performance. For those of you going, I've been out there all after since this morning. The theater is next to the airport. If you're planning to go, and if you're like at Cambridge Suites, go in a group, get a group Uber, leave at least an hour to get there. When I came up in '78, I had this great job to manage the Canadian Opera Company, and you used to do the airport in 20 minutes. And I keep forgetting it isn't that way anymore. So we used to have rush minute. We now have rush hour or rush hours. So please do that. If you're even talking to a group, there's all kinds of food at the casino. This is one of those 5,000 seat theaters where the casino is stuck in it. There's a way to get in without going past the casino, and then there's a way to go through the casino to get into the theater. But there is a food court in the theater in there, and there's all kinds of other restaurants and things. And you can sign up as a member. You have to spend a few $1,000s at the gaming tables, and then you can have a wonderful free dinner and drinks. So please go as a group. Leave at least an hour to get out there. The other thing I really wanted to do was talk about a little bit about this program. The world has changed to electronic reach. Within 24 hours of each of our sessions, they're actually on the Gould Standard, which is, if you go Gould Standard on YouTube, you will get a list of all of our programs, and Promise of Music, every single session is up, and the performances the next day. So this session will be online. So please tell everybody, and we will actually be extracting out of that, hopefully a 2-hour documentary on everything that's going on, and encouraging on a marketing program everyone who did not attend to be able to go electronically to take the best of all these sessions. So it's the Gould Standard on the Glenn Gould website, or on the just going to YouTube. So we've saved the best for last. I'm a failed music teacher. I lasted 2 years coming off the road as a professional musician, doing rock shows and playing in places like Madison Square Garden, to teaching music. And I must say that it requires more than being a great musician. It requires so much more to be a great music teacher. And so I've been really excited for this program. I just want to find out all the things I've done wrong and how to do it right. So I'm looking forward to the session. I wanted to introduce now, this is a senior moment, because I know your last name is on your first name, Andrea. This is what happens when at a certain age you've met too many people and your brain is full and you have a short-term memory. But Andrea is from the Sarah McLachlan School in Vancouver. And yes, congratulations. So I'll let her, she's going to introduce everybody and moderate the panel. And so without further ado, Andrea, it's all yours.
Okay. So first question, we should get
Okay, so this is actually news that I am the moderator. I am excited, and it's going to go great. Our moderation actually has been an email thread. It's been a very lively email thread. We've really enjoyed it quite a lot, as it's included things like how in the world do we get to this pod room, which I think you've all experienced. But we've been working through a lot of things together all week, even though we've just met. So maybe, as a matter of fact, we should do a couple of self-introductions, and then we can go through. And then I'll try to maybe think of some questions, and we can all do that as well. So thank you very much for that introduction. Oh yeah, maybe I'm going to stand. This is mostly so that my friend Erin Parks can get a photo. My name is Andrea Unruh. I'm the Director of Programming for the Sarah McLachlan School of Music. I've been there for about 10 years now. We have a free music program that was started by Sarah McLachlan in 2002, where we offer free group, mostly group and also private music, both in and out of schools. We have about 1,200 after-school program participants and 800 in-school program participants, offering guitar, piano, ukulele, songwriting, voice, percussion, drums, and a bunch of things that kind of come out of that. We were talking about, whether it's a contemporary or classical or lens, we try to sort of say that we're student focused, so where the students go, we take them. I'm very excited to be here talking about music in schools, and one last thing that I'll say is my background came first from being one of those people who loved music in school but thought I couldn't do anything with it, and going into science, and then finding out about 3 years into my science degree that there was a field called music cognition, or music perception on cognition, music education. And then I met through that Dr. Laurel Trainer, who some of you may have seen her talk this morning, or her moderating a talk this afternoon. I worked with her for years studying all the benefits of music education for young infants and young children and school-aged children. And then through all that, I just became very passionate about bringing those benefits to more kids than just the children of the wealthy who could afford expensive music lessons. And so that's how I became involved in more charitable programs. And I was so lucky to connect with the Sarah School so that we could bring some of those benefits to kids who would otherwise be facing barriers to access. So very happy to be here as part of the panel, and very happy to be talking about music in schools. I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. I'm going to get that in there. Okay, good. We were really debating the set list tonight, who was going to go first, how we would work that out. We weren't sure. Then all of a sudden, Andrea's just named the moderator out of nowhere. So that was a good job. Nice jumping in there. Thank you for that. So I guess instead of us going around the horn, we're just going to go in and do, we all said we'd just say a little bit about what we're doing. And so I was going to be first, and my name is Melanie Doan, and I'm really pleased to be here. And I just want to shout out to my fellow roundtablers. I admire you all so much. You're amazing. The work you do is so important. And I'm just really honored to be here with you, but also here at this symposium, first time thing that is really quite astonishing in scope. And just a congrats to everyone who's been working so hard and doing all the things to make it happen. I also just wonder if there are any music teachers. Hands up, music teachers. Who's a music teacher? All right. Well, those, what's that? Well, any. So just a big shout of congrats to you all as well. I guess particularly anyone who's working in public schools right now. It's no joke. It's not easy. We're facing a lot of obstacles, and I just want to acknowledge that. And it's not even musical things a lot of the time, as you know. So it's tricky times, but I just want to say that truly, I believe that music is more important than ever for the kids. And so every obstacle that you overcome is so worth it right now. And I know it's hard, and I see you and all you're going through, because you're not alone. We're all going through it with you. And together we just need to make sure that all kids have access to music, especially right now, more than ever, ever, ever. So keep going and reach out to your fellow music teachers. I know I want to reach out to all of you when I have those moments and someone just says, oh yeah, there's no room for your class after all, even though we planned it 6 months ago and now you're here to do it and there's nothing. Or whatever other non-musical type things you might be facing, which can be run the gamut. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that and give you a shout for all of your courage. I run a large music program here in Toronto, and we're focused on accessibility, zero barriers, excellence in programming with a strong emphasis on classroom pedagogy and teacher training. And right now we're working with 1,400 weekly students. We're an independent charity, and we go into public school buildings and community spaces to fill the gap where there are no instrumental programs, music specialists, or free arts opportunities for kids. The backstory of my program is that I am the product of an excellent all-Canadian public school music program that was free for the entire city where I grew up, which was Halifax, Nova Scotia. Maritimers in the house. My program here in Toronto is modeled after the work that took place in the Halifax School Board and which inspired so many other school boards across the country at the time. This all-Canadian teaching method and legacy is the work of my father, J. Chalmers Doan. And like him, I am highly motivated to make music accessible to all kids. He received the Order of Canada for his contributions to music education. And one of his amazing accomplishments beyond free and high-quality programming for an entire city was his development of classroom pedagogy and the use of the ukulele in the classroom. His plan was part of a larger orchestral choral band program, and he thought, what if we start everyone in grade 4 on the uke? Before this time, this instrument was not used in the classroom and was predominantly thought of as a rhythm instrument from its origins first in Portugal and later adopted by the Hawaiians. And my dad wondered, what if we do everything on the ukulele that we're doing in our string program and our band program? What if we do melody, give them melody, we do that with all of our instruments. What about harmony? Could we do that on the ukulele? Yeah, we can do harmony. Could we do harmony and melody at the same time? Okay, so we've got melody, harmony. We're doing pretty good with this little instrument. That's a lot of stuff we can do with the kids. What about rhythm? I think we can also do rhythm. We're getting a lot of going on here. We can't do this on every instrument. This is looking good. So let me just give you a little harmony, melody, and rhythm at the same time. See if you can hear all three. You're music teachers, so I know you can, but I'm a music teacher, so I have to ask, can you hear all three? So that is a lot of music going on. Thank you, back row. That's a lot happening here. And so he implemented this. And the two other big advantages I didn't touch on just now, singing and playing. Everyone's also singing. Okay, that's a lot of things, melody, harmony, rhythm, singing, and the development of ear intelligence. That was the other big one for him. And so in grade 4, everyone is ears trained, ready, reading, singing, and accompanying themselves, melody, harmony, rhythm, and now they come into the string program, they come into the band program. Oh, those band teachers are so happy. Those string teachers are so happy. The orchestra's already all set. It worked a charm, and it started to spread across the country. So skip ahead, and I find myself in Toronto. I'm a musician, and I've been touring and recording and doing many things over the years. But I grew up in such an amazing, nurturing, successful public school music program. And I started to really mourn that because I wasn't seeing it anymore. It's not like that in the schools anymore. So I decided to start a program modeled after my dad's work. So we use this handy dandy vehicle in my program because it's an incredible delivery system. It's affordable, accessible, attractive to kids, and more musically sophisticated than most people are willing to acknowledge. But I happen to know what you can do, and I can take them from grade 4 to 12, and we are not doing the same thing each year. It's 4 to 12 program, so we really can keep it going. And I just want to point out the other really important thing that sometimes doesn't come across very well, or easily, but the uke is the vehicle. This is the vehicle. The real instrument that we're working with is not the ukulele. The instrument is the brain. When the brain can make music, we can play all of the instruments. And the other reason this vehicle works so well is we can put it into more hands because we can afford to do so. And because of all the music that my dad developed, we can keep the program going. We're delivering real music literacy. So I'm very proud of the program. I stand on the shoulders of so many teachers who did this for me. And so I have a strong passion to do it for more kids. And I do believe, and I know all of you do too, that this is such an important time to be creating, to be getting away from screens, to be giving kids the tools that they can go in their room and write a song, and all of the things that music brings. So I again congratulate you all and all of you. And I just wanted to show you a quick thing, my students in action. You might enjoy. These are kids once they've been playing for 2 or 3 years. Like I said, we go to grade 12, so we're always going up, up, up with their playing. And this was a beautiful piece that we did with Canadian icon and wonderful advocate for music education, Molly Johnson, and my uke kids, middle schoolers, and a mixture of some middle schoolers, some high schoolers, about 150 kids that got to do this one. So someone's going to play it somewhere. I don't know. How do we do that? Oh, Jeannie is, oh, really?
I think so.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. I hit it.
We got someone who looks
gonna get easier. Ooh, ooh, child, things will get brighter. Ooh, ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, ooh, child, things will get brighter. Get brighter. Ooh, ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, ooh, child, things will get brighter. Someday, yeah, we'll work together and we'll get it undone. Someday, when your head is much lighter.
Brilliant, thanks. I don't really want to stand behind something too formal. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma. I am from the Music in Secondary Schools Trust in England. And I say England advisedly. We're not, it would be great to say the UK, but actually our four nations music sort of education systems aren't completely aligned. So we are an English charity, and we work with around 30 schools across England. All of those schools are in areas and communities that face significant challenge one way or another, social, economic, cultural, you name it. They're facing it somewhere. So just to tell you a little bit about how we started, our founder, the amazing Trudy Wright, who was white, who was a force of nature, was brought into an inner London school in the borough of Islington about 12 years ago as principal. And it was a failing school. It had been graded failing by our sort of national body that does nice things like grade schools failing. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. It's been recorded, isn't it? Anyway, it was tough. It was a tough environment for everyone, for students, for teachers, for families. It was a challenging environment. And she wasn't a musician herself at all. It wasn't her subject. It wasn't her thing. And she saw a music project in New York, actually. I don't know quite what caused her to be there, but she saw a music project in New York, and she came back and she said, right, I'm giving every student in Key Stage 3 an instrument. Now, Key Stage 3 for us is the first 3 years of high school, so about 11 to 14, something like that. Now, this is unusual. This is really unusual, and there wasn't the funding to do it or anything, and she went out and she made it happen. And she gave over a period of 3 years, she got every child, and we're probably talking about something like somewhere between 600 and 800 children, I think, every child an instrument, and she said, music is going to be the heart of our school, and music is going to be the hub around which everything else spins. And to cut a long story short, within a relatively short space of time, not too long later, the school was graded outstanding. And the inspectors, the team of inspectors, specifically highlighted music as being one of the main factors, and the music programme as being the reason for that change. So that was school one. And now we're in about 30 schools. And we have a full 3-year music programme. I don't personally deliver it in all 30 schools, obviously, but we have a small team, and we work absolutely in partnership with the schools. So it's actually the school music teacher and a team of other people, which I'll come on to later, who deliver it with our training, with our help, with our support. It's absolutely a partnership between us and the school to do it, and the school need to enter into that partnership, sort of an agreement, if you like, with us. Just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of where we are at the moment. I've just pressed a button, but nothing's happening. Yeah, is it coming? Sorry, I'm pressing my forward. Okay, can you just, I'll do it. Okay, so these are actually 2024 figures. Can I just say press or something when it's time? Brilliant, thank you so much. These are 2024 figures, because actually, as I was coming away to the conference, the trustees and the board were signing off on the 25 figures. So we didn't want to put them in just to, because they hadn't been officially signed off. So actually, this is closer to 26,000 students who have been through the programme. Thank you. Next, press, please. Thank you. There's a few. In 24 to 25, there were around 14,000 students, just short of 14,000 students, undergoing the programme in the schools. Next press, please. We've had about 1,500 students on residentials. So this takes me to what we call our programmes of excellence. So we work in the schools and we deliver within the curriculum this programme, but we also have a whole series then of additional things. So those schools then come together in clusters, and once a year all the schools come together for an amazing celebration concert as well. They come together in clusters for play days, for getting together, for playing in much bigger ensembles, and then there is a residential in summer, which each school can bring. I mean, they can't bring masses of students to it, but they can bring a cohort of students to it, and they come and they have 3 days of playing together, and it is the most amazing thing. And not only do they have 3 days of playing together, they also do lots of other activities as well, and you can imagine all the sort of social and amazing interaction things that come from that. And it's a very intense 3 days for them, because they go from, being beginners on their instruments, like making music for like 6-7 hours in the day, and then something else, and they are wiped out, but really positively, and it's great, and it's an amazing thing. And we take them to a sort of what's basically a very posh English private school, which is not from where any of them come from. I mean, some of them have never seen a sheep, some of them have never seen certain things. There's just lots of green space and so on, and it's just huge. I mean, some from around my area, when they got there, said, "Oh, we knew it was going to be posh because it had gravel." That was one of the things they said, and it's just such a huge experience for them, because their world is maybe a mile round their home in an inner city, often an inner city area. So it's just an amazing thing. And then if you could press, please, thank you so much. About just short of it's probably up close towards 100,000 now, face-to-face hours of tuition. So within this program, everybody gets an orchestral instrument. And in every classroom, there is there's a classroom music teacher and an instrumental tutor who is an expert on that instrument. And then we have a whole curriculum which is built around the playing. And it's all about making music. It's all about playing the instrument, and everything serves that, and it's fantastic. But obviously, it incorporates singing. We sing, we improvise, we compose, we listen. All of those things. And whilst, if you like, the tools that we're teaching are classical in the sense that sort of they're based on the Western classical system. Across the whole program in 3 years, the diversity of music and composers and genres and styles that the students encounter is huge. So that's what it is. So, but I need to be really clear about this. We are about transforming lives, not about transforming conservatoires. So what I mean by that is that our whole raison d'etre is that music is a vehicle to transform the lives of the children. We are not trying to fill the next generation of music colleges. We give a lot of children instruments. They play them. Of course, we find talent, and we nurture that talent, and we take a lot of care to ensure that there are pathways for those students wherever they are in the country, because it's slightly different depending where they are, and our schools are literally from the furthest kind of northwest corner down to where if you go any further you get your feet wet at the bottom. I mean, England's not that big, but even so. So we find pathways, we provide pathways where we can, all of those things. But we're not, that's our raison d'etre is about transforming lives, and everything we do is guided and led by a theory of change. If you could just click, that'd be brilliant. I'm not going to read this to you, obviously, and just have a quick look, and by all means look on our website and you'll see it and so on. But this codifies really what we've been hearing about all week in this conference. It's absolutely amazing, and it's brilliant that it's so exciting to hear, all the science and everything. We know this to be true, and we know this from our own. We have a director of research. We know this from our own data that we collect and is very robustly kind of analysed and carefully analysed. We know it from further scientific research. We know it from external, studies and so on and all of that. But it's kind of codified into this, which helps us to help others understand what we're doing and why. That we're as much almost as about transforming the school as we are about transforming the music department. So all of these things, it starts on the left-hand side with music, things like students play to a standard they never thought possible, and so on, and what that actually leads to in terms of the skills and things that they can develop and the changes that can come about. And in a lot of the communities we work with, aspiration is really important. So we've got alumni, for example, who will say to you, yeah, I went to university and didn't read music, but the very fact that they went to university, even thought about going to university, even thought about applying, was because they got a flute in year 7. And they will say that. They will make that absolute direct link between the two. Now, obviously, that's their experience, and it's quite hard to justify that sort of scientifically, but I think the science is there as well. And so we're about transforming the lives and putting music at the heart of the school, not just about filling the next music classes and so on. So I just thought I'd say just a few of the things that have helped where we've had success. We're not a perfect organisation. We don't get everything right. I'm really sorry to tell you that, but that's just the truth. We just don't get everything right. But the things that we have learned, and there are some things that we do that might be useful or might spark something in thinking about your own music programmes and what you do. So if we can just have the next slide, that'd be great. Brilliant, thank you. So you can just click, there's a few things. So the first thing is the instrument is at the heart of everything. So we know that a mastery skill, and obviously playing an instrument is a mastery skill, increases the learning progress of a student. So playing an instrument is an enabler, and everything comes out of playing that instrument and back in. So we believe, for example, that if you have an instrument in your hand, then you can start to learn to improvise. It's easier to compose. It's more natural to compose if you have a little bit of a facility or understanding of an instrument, and that process and so on. So some facility, and obviously not all students are virtuosos. Sean, I think from Systema Toronto the other day was saying, he said, one of our success criteria might be that the child turned up and opened the case. I completely relate to that. We completely relate to that. I'll come on to the fact that it's an entitlement model. We're dealing with students where that might be a success. So we're not saying that all these students are, playing like Mozart or something. That's not the case, and that's not what we're seeking to do. But, you can improvise with one note. You can improvise rhythmically. You can create those safe environments. You're creating a culture. So the instrument feeds everything, and everything feeds the instrument. I see it's like the hub, that the instrument is the hub at the heart of the wheel, which all of these other things come out of. If you can, next one would be brilliant. Thank you. Our practice routine is a little 4-step routine that we use. We use Kadai as part of our teaching, and some of our approaches and things are provided to the schools, and that's what we have this whole curriculum that's got everything in it for the schools. And one of the unifying things is this practice routine, which is the way that we approach any new piece of music. And obviously there's lots of research at the moment. There's loads of stuff about routine in schools, and it helps students feel safe, familiar, and reduces cognitive load so that they can learn more. So our practice routine is something that we really, really, really find works incredibly well, and all our schools use it. So when they do then come together as well, it's something that they can do together. It's something that they all recognise, and so on. So it's a little 4-step routine involving working out, sort of saying out the Kadai and miming what they're playing. I won't go into it all now, but that is a real enabler. It simplifies, it unifies, and again, it enables. If we can do the next one. Okay. We do believe, and we don't apologise for the fact, that there is a place for theory and knowledge in music making, but it's all about coming back to that music making. It's a tool. Students need to understand why they might want to learn some theory, why they might want to understand some elements of theory. And actually, that is obviously there's classical notation and learning to read music and so on, but also there's theory in any aspect of music making. If you work electronically, if you work digitally, there's theory behind that. There's knowledge that you need to have to be able to do it. Students, I don't think we should apologise for that. Students have things that they need to, if they understand why it helps them to know it, then they can use it. And it's to serve, in the end though, it's always to serve making music. It's always to serve engaging with music, actually having that experience of music, not just listening to it. It should never be for its own sake. It's always serving that purpose. I'm nearly done, I promise. Next one, thank you. Entitlement, enablement, expectations. So we're an entitlement model. Every single student gets an instrument, and every single student as a result of that, the other side of that is they're expected to take part. There's a great enabling factor in the collectivity. You're not the weird kid with the instrument case anymore. Everybody's doing it. They're doing it like they do PE. They're doing it like they do geography. They're doing it like they do history. This is music, and everybody does it. And some will like it more than others, just like some like maths more than others, and some like, and so on. But it's there, and I think we don't really tolerate no-sayers. And it's interesting because there can be some, I don't want to stray into dangerous ground, there can be some, in some of our communities, some reservations religious reservations about playing, but we've actually found that in conversation with the families and communities that it essentially isn't a great problem at all, because it's within school time, it's happening. There's lots of things we can do, and those problems can be accommodated and worked out just by talking to people and actually having conversations. And that's really important. So, and there might be occasional other reasons, but for example, we would never accept, I just don't want to play the violin. The violin may not be their first instrument of choice, but we sort of say, well, it's a gateway instrument. One of the ladies in a panel the other day used a really amazing phrase. She said, this is your alphabet, go and make whatever music you want. And it's that sort of saying, well, yeah, this is a tool. We're giving you a tool. And I would also argue, it's a bit, again, that there is a point at which people say music should be all, you'll hear it quite a lot, music should be all about choice, the children should choose. Yes, to a point, totally get that, we want everybody to be engaged. But they don't get to choose what they cover in history, they don't get to choose what they cover in geography, they don't get to choose what they cover in maths, because people who are deemed experts in that field have decided what those curriculums should look like. And why, and there's very good reason for why certain things. And yes, of course, they evolve and get debated and so on, and so they should. It's right, we should always evaluate whether what we're doing is correct. But that doesn't seem sometimes to apply to music when you're talking to people. It seems to, no, everybody should choose. And it's, well, to a point, but possibly also no. It's that sort of working it out. And my final point, before I shut up, don't forget the big why. So, it's hard grind, isn't it? It's hard grind in the classroom. It's tough. It's a tough environment. It's tiring. And sometimes it feels like a battle. It's an uphill struggle. So I think it's really important to remember why we're doing it. That kind of chimes with what you were saying. It's like those impacts, those outcomes that we know you can have from working with music, and that's getting increasingly backed up by not just those of us who are passionate about it, but, if you like, objective scientific stuff that says, yeah, actually, there's every reason for this to be taken as correct. We don't forget that. We need to remind ourselves of that when we're overcoming the problems. Is exactly what you said, Melanie. When we're overcoming the problems, when the hurdles are there, that actually there is a big why, as I call it, and we need to remember that. And that needs to guide. And not every organisation will look the same, and not every organisation will do this the same way, and that's okay. But there needs to be the why, and we need not to forget it. Anyway, that's me. I'll pass on to Jeannie. Thanks. Yeah, of course.
Thank you. I'm so glad there's a microphone. I'm hoping that instead of finding my voice sounding like this annoying, that it somehow makes me mysterious. So my name is Jeannie Hunter. This is my self-portrait for today. And it's not just because we're sometimes a little tired, but it's because sometimes I feel like the elephant in the room. And I feel like that because I am a full-time high school music teacher who delivers my program through primarily band instruments. And there seems to be a move away from that in our school system. And yet there seems to be a move toward it in our community programming. So I like to frame my work by thinking about why that is and why programs in the community, such as Orchestra, founded by Tina Fedeschi and with which I've worked regularly over the years, why programs all around the world like Sistema are delivering music through orchestral and band instruments. And in the school system, we're saying, no, we don't need that anymore. Because I think what we see is that if we could put this in place in the school system, we wouldn't need it as much in the community. And think about all of the other amazing things these amazing women would be doing. And I do want to acknowledge what a privilege it is to stand up here with 4 women who are transforming lives through music. So again, to give you some examples, Chineke Orchestra who the founder of Chineke, sorry for the voice, oh my gosh, maybe I'll just whisper, founded because she was told after a career in classical music that this kind of music wasn't for her because she was racialized. Music by Black composers whose stated mission is to continue to provide opportunities for Black musicians to stay involved in classical music. I just think that the instrument is the brain, and that if we work on our delivery models in the school system, we can create real change, and we can do that by diversifying our repertoire. We're very lucky here in Toronto to have someone named Pratik Gandhi, who has developed a Canadian wind band repertoire library with an equity and diversity focus. And organizations like the Dunn Foundation, which I think is based in the UK, and they actually crunch the numbers every year, and it's still more than 90% of what orchestras are programming are written by men, and most of those men are white. So I think we have a lot of things to do, and when I try and talk to people about this, they'll say things to me like, oh, but we did a whole concert of music by women composers last year, or in February, which is a Black History Month here in Canada, we did a whole theme concert. And so what I want to say is identity is not a theme. Being a woman is not a theme. Being racialized is not a theme. If you want to do a concert about water, that's a theme. But we must not treat identity as a theme. So thank you. So if you could, oh, does it work? Am I going to be the first one? Let's see. Watch. Okay, I'm going to share some other thoughts about music education through the voices of Canadian musicians. I think this quote speaks for itself if you listen to my voice and what Mel and Emma have said. We're all tired. We're tired. Robbie Robertson, by the way, Indigenous Canadian musician, who ironically is credited with helping create the sound of what we would consider Americana for the musicologists out there. And the last member of the band died last year. And the weight is that we know the transformative power of music education, and there's peer-reviewed scientific proof, and yet we must fight for our existence and justify our existence every day. But it's worth it. So I just want to acknowledge that we're all tired and we feel the weight, but we know that what we're doing is the only solution to what's going on in the world right now. Oh wait, I'm supposed to be able to use this myself. Oh, it works. Armory Schaefer, Canadian composer. For a child of 5, art is life and life is art. Once the child is in school, they get separated. Art becomes art and life becomes life. And I think what we've seen here this week is that that's not the case. And Armory Schaefer is a great role model because he was a trailblazer in the exploration of how humans interact with their sonic environment. So through soundscapes, graphic scores, encouraging sonic exploration with kids that he was working with. He's a lifelong learner. His life was music, and music was his life. And so he's such a great role model. I've also spent my entire career, up until last week when I went to put this slideshow together, misattributing a quote to Armory Schaefer. He did not say, but I have always thought he did, "Be the guide by the side, not the sage on the stage." Okay, so he might not have said it, but I think he'd like it. And so one of my personal missions is to get off the podium and be part of a community of learners rather than trying to be at the front of the classroom all the time. And I learn so much when I do that. All right. That is not my next slide. Well, it's my next slide now. Okay. Gord Downey, lead singer of the Tragically Hip, from Kingston, which is close to my hometown. He told the stories of Canada, the good, the bad, the ugly, and he helped us reflect upon ourselves, which is what I believe that music can do. He's saying the geography of our country from sea to sea to sea. He helped us reflect on our faults, and he helped us talk about how we can do better. Music as storytelling is an excellent way to reach our students, and he reminds us to be our authentic selves. Only if we are ourselves in the classroom can we expect children to be themselves. So we must be our authentic selves in the classroom, and we must find a way to make sure that students feel comfortable being theirs. And I also think this reminds us to live life fully, and we must teach fully. Every minute counts. Everything we do counts. I wonder what slide's gonna come up next. Okay, this is definitely not the right order. I'm just gonna try and see if could I just get, sorry. As entertaining as I'm sure this is. Okay, they're just in the wrong order. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to, okay, that's definitely, okay, so about 5 of my slides are missing. Yeah. So I will tell you what I'm hoping my friend on the computer is gonna be able to find, which is a picture of Leonard Cohen, sort of thought of as Canada's poet laureate unofficially. When Leonard Cohen recorded Hallelujah, Columbia Records refused to release it, even though they had paid for the album in advance. Then it was performed on American Idol, used in the movie Shrek, covered by Jeff Buckley, and suddenly it's considered one of the top 100 songs of all time. Depending on how you look at it, there's over 100 recorded covers, and he wrote almost 150 verses in working on this song. The quote that I was hoping you would see, that's all the slides that are there. Well, that's a little sad. Okay, is from the music for Anthem. And he sings, and I would sing for you, but I really don't think we want that right now. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And I love this quote because it's about our imperfections making us who we are. And I think you could substitute the word joy for light. That's how the joy gets in. And for me, I value progress over perfection in my class. And I value joy, and I center joy, and we laugh a lot. And the best part is when we laugh at our mistakes, and I make lots of them. I also think Leonard Cohen's voice is typical of something that I think is really Canadian. We have a lot of singers who have imperfect voices that we love because of it. Geddy Lee, Neil Young, Greg Keeler, Stephen Page, Stompin' Tom, Gord Downey, Gordon Lightfoot, Leonard Cohen. They're beautiful because they're unique. They're beautiful because they're authentic. And I heard someone say that Leonard Cohen's so profound because every word weighs 1,000 pounds. And I keep that in mind because as music educators, every word weighs 1,000 pounds. With our words, we can convince children that they are capable of anything. We just have to be the guide by the side. And I had a recent experience. I ran into a student I taught in 2001. She was in my grade 10 music class. She played tuba. Her name was Aote. I could point her house out. I remember her parents' names. And I hadn't seen her since 2001. She's now an entrepreneur. And she told me that what I wrote in her grade 10 yearbook changed the trajectory of her life. Every word weighs 1,000 pounds. We must be aware of that. Okay, Oscar Peterson, Hymn to Freedom. When everyone joins everyone, then together sing in harmony. That's when we'll be free. Oscar Peterson would have celebrated his 100th birthday this year, and there's a centennial quartet touring in his honor. I've missed them in every city. I was in Montreal when they were in Ottawa. I was in Ottawa when they were in Toronto, and they played in Ottawa this week. Oscar Peterson was subjected to intense racism and even segregation when he was touring in the American South. But instead of letting that hold him back or change who he was, he wrote music that is transformative with enduring messages of unity and peace and dignity for all people. And I think that that's a great message for everyone. And we're doing a whole lot of programming in our class this year around Oscar Peterson because we can celebrate that life and that legacy. Oh, my final slide's actually there. It's Jeremy Dutcher. So we started with an Indigenous musician, and I thought we would end with an Indigenous musician, Jeremy Dutcher, on one end and Robbie Robertson on the other, sort of framing our journey with our Indigenous peoples in many ways through the last 20 to 40 to 150 years. Jeremy Dutcher is an amazing human. If you ever have the opportunity to see him play, you will be mesmerized. He discovered wax cylinder recordings of his ancestors at the Canadian Museum of History in Ottawa. And he spent a great deal of time transcribing them. Then he wrote arrangements to go with them. And he performs with those recordings. He's the only Canadian musician to win the Polaris Prize twice. He challenges our assumptions about what culture, gender, sexuality, and music can be. So take my hand and walk with me, together you and I. Join hands, walk with your students, explicitly value other ways and means of knowing. Be the guide by the side, a part of a community of learners. Join hearts, center identity, and be your authentic self. Sing in harmony, make a joyful noise, and let the light shine in. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as the amazing moderator that I am, I have no idea what time it is. Can somebody please let me know? 4:57. Okay, so honestly, when I was watching everyone talk, I was thinking about how sometimes we get to the end of one of these conferences and there's just something left that you're like, I liked going, but I wish we had talked about this. And instead of me giving a few more minutes of talking about my own program, which I'm perfectly happy to talk about later, I just wanted to know if there was anything either from the panelists on stage or in here that you're like, I liked it, but I really wished we had talked just a little about this one thing. And then maybe we could talk a little bit about it on the panel. Is there something that comes to mind for anybody?
I'm an elementary music educator, primary, and my question, as Jeannie has said, is like constantly having to vouch for ourselves and make sure that we are relevant. But I never know how, like, all of the theory, all of the research, we've heard all the science all week, it all exists, but how do we take the idea and affect policy? So, like, I was going to ask you about the funding in England, not Ontario, but how do we get that change to happen in a real, tangible way? Does anyone have idea? Anyone?
Well, let's start here.
Oh, thanks so much.
You personally convinced.
So I obviously I can't speak to the funding situation in Canada. In England, there's a massive funding problem in education in our public schools, or we call them state schools. So in our state schools, there's a big funding problem, and despite all this, and although technically each child is supposed to have an hour of music curriculum until year 9, which for us is 14, it isn't borne out in reality across the country, and yet exactly the same. Music is often the first thing to get shaved, to get cut down. Funnily enough, Tina, who's there, we were talking after the last session when it was about the research papers that had been done and so on. You're in it as well, and I was just, what are they missing? What is it that the politicians and the policymakers don't want to hear? There's something that seems to like, why aren't they hearing it when it feels like you're screaming into a void, and there's a lot of us screaming into the same void. It's just like, what is it that they don't hear? And I don't have the answer to that, but I do think, and especially on the basis of this week, my sort of, and this is personal, not necessarily, is that I do start to think that the science is catching up, and it's starting to get more audible, and it's starting to get more visible, and there will come a point where government and the policymakers can't ignore it in the same way, because it's actually articulating what we as music educators know perfectly well, and music participants know, however it is that they engage with making music, they know. We all know, don't we, what music does instinctively and intuitively. Once you're involved in it, you get it. And I think that it's going to get more audible. I really, really hope so, because how can you argue with some of the research that's out there? But I haven't got an answer, because you do just want to scream, what is it that you don't want to do? It's a decision. What is it that you don't want to do when this is just so obvious? So that was no help at all. Who wants to answer?
And all of that, agree. And then there's another layer that I know we're dealing with here, maybe different where you are, where I think all the parents want it. I think all of the studies show it. We all know, we all agree. Yeah, oh yeah, it's all great. We get it. It's a plus. It's in the curriculum. Who's teaching it? Who is teaching it? Not always music teachers. What do they call it? Music? They call it a prep. It's a prep. When we get that word away, that's going to be a big step, because that's not cool. I'm sorry. That's a disrespectful way of dealing with it. And that's what it is, and that's what everyone thinks of it as. I don't think that's okay. So those are things that are within our own system that have happened. So that's not, it's a tangent, I'm sorry, but those are the things within each school. And then when the principal has to deal with making sure everyone gets their prep, they're really focused on that. They don't want their teachers to be upset, because their teachers have a hard time and they're struggling, and all the teachers need to be taken care of, and that's correct. But there's a disrespect for what music is and who's teaching it and what is required to be a music teacher and a music specialist, and all arts, honestly. But it's quite disheartening at times when the level of understanding and the level of ignorance around this subject, that's a big part of it too. So anyway, I won't go too much on.
Again, I don't have funding solutions. I will tell you, Alicia, something that we did, but we can't do right now, because my school board has been taken over by the province, so we no longer have trustees and we no longer have board meetings. But during the pandemic, in order to get in-person playing back, anyone can present at a board meeting, and up to 5 external delegates can present at any one meeting. And so we filled all 5 spots with music parents at every board meeting for a year. So eventually, if you don't give them a choice, then sometimes they listen. And we in Ottawa, to get in-person playing back post-pandemic, we got all music teachers and all 4 school boards together on the front lawn of City Hall. We called the media, and we had a mayoral proclamation made that it was Music Education Day in Ottawa. And we all played Hallelujah, actually, ironically, on the front steps, of City Hall. And eventually we got playing back in all 4 boards. So I don't like sitting back, so I'm happy to make a noise wherever I can.
Okay, I think we've hit 5 o'clock. I think there's like a final address or something that's happening. So I don't want to go over time. Oh, sure. What do I want to say? Maybe the final thing is I wonder sometimes if we need to get more creative about the convincing game we're playing, because at this point, even when you were talking and we were thinking about music as one subject, I think the kids of today have to learn how to think. They basically don't really need any of the specific knowledge we're giving them. We're going to take away all their jobs. They need to learn how to be creative. Maybe more than this is kind of a side thought of mine, but I'm thinking about like music might even be more fundamental than we're thinking. It's going to be even more important than a subject out of 6 that might get cut. It's going to be the thing that's going to allow kids to develop, like in the other talk, executive functioning skills through call and response and inhibitory control. It's going to be the thing that's going to allow them to develop self-motivation because they heard themselves get better at something and finally thought, I can get better at something. It's going to be the thing that allowed them to start improvising and think, oh, I can invent something new. And I just think that we're going to have to start making arguments that are at even more of a fundamental level than we have before. Well, thanks, everybody. I hope you've had a wonderful conference, and thanks so much for coming to our panel.